Welcome everyone to our next session of Kauka Travel Diaries. In this session, we have Uma Hoskote and Dinkar Hoskote who will be talking about the roads less traveled, about New Mexico and New Orleans. So we will just, I'm sorry, not New Orleans, about New Mexico and Oregon. The New Monapur, I got a bit confused. So it's New Mexico and Oregon. So I'll hand it over to Uma for presentation.
Thank you, Kedar and Preeti. Let me share my screen.
Let us know if you can hear us and see the screen. Kedar, can you see?
Yes, yes.
Wait, sama this time.
Can you hear us? Okay.
Wait, this time.
Okay, so today we chose a couple of destinations which are both domestic. I know so far the travel diaries have been taking us to international destinations, but we chose these destinations mainly because now with COVID air travel concerns, everybody is worried about taking air trips, being there for an extended period of time in a confined space with a lot of people. So we chose these two destinations which can possibly be done as road trips from California, possibly as a long weekend or adding on a couple of days. They're also not that popular as tourist attractions, so it makes for a more relaxing vacation. And they have several attractions which will be liked by both adults and kids. So first we will be doing Portland, Oregon. So we spent a 3-day weekend in Portland. I think it was Labor Day in 2018. So we did road trips. We based ourselves in Portland and we did road trips covering the area around it. So on day one, we covered the Columbia River Gorge and the Mount Hood National Forest area. So this is basically what we covered. We started in Portland, we went to La Tourelle Falls. From there, we drove to Multnomah. And then from there, we went to the Mount Hood National Forest area to something called a Lake Trillium. And then drove up to the base of Mount Hood. And all that took us almost until 3 to 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So let me open up the pictures for our first day. Can everybody see the pictures?
Wait.
Okay, so that our first stop for the day was La Tourelle Falls. La Tourelle Falls is almost a 224 feet fall, and it is a single plunge fall, meaning after it falls off the rock the first time, it doesn't touch the rock again. So it's just water coming straight down. And it's very beautiful. It has all this chartreuse green colored moss around it on the rocks, and you can do several hikes. You can either go to the base of the falls or you can actually take a longer hike right up to the top, which we didn't do. We just went down to the base and then we did another side hike around that area. So here is Mekla standing at the base of the rock. I don't know if this video, but it's a pretty short video. So after doing that falls, we went further up on that hill, and it takes you to a point called the Crown Point Vista Point. And they have a house built there, a small structure built there with a cafe and some history of the place. And it gives you 360-degree views of the whole Columbia River Gorge and all the area around it. So it's very beautiful. So if you see here, you can see the river snaking its way through the mountains on one side. And then you can also see the other side as well. So around that area, the Columbia River Gorge, there are a lot of hiking trails and a lot of waterfalls. But unfortunately, when we went in 2018, just the previous year, they had a massive fire in that area, and a lot of the trails were destroyed or were in a precarious condition. So the government had them shut down. So we were not able to do a lot of trails there. But luckily, these two falls were still open, and we could go see those. So from that vista point, we made our way to the Multnomah Falls, which is, I think, the most well-known falls in Oregon because it is the highest falls at around 620 feet height. And it's fed by underground springs. So no matter which time of the year you go, the falls are flowing. The volume of water might be slightly less at certain times, but nevertheless, you get to see the falls. Unlike some of the falls in, say, Yosemite, which completely dry up after the summer months. So here also you can do several hikes, but we did the small hike which takes you up to that bridge which you must have seen in several famous pictures. And it allows you to actually feel the spray of the waterfalls on your face. And you can see the falls coming from up and then flowing down further. So that's a good viewing point for the falls. From there, we made our way to the Mount Hood National Forest area. There are several points there you can go to, but we covered the slightly more well-known ones. This is Lake Trillium. It's a very beautiful lake, and you can get nice views of Mount Hood from there. And if it's a perfectly still day when the water is still, you can get a perfect reflection of Mount Hood in the water. However, with us being there on Labor Day, there were a lot of families boating, children playing in the water, so no chance of still waters, but you can still see a little bit of a reflection in the water there. They have a nice hiking trail all around the lake. So it's about 2 miles or so. They have campgrounds, and you can actually stay there in a tent if you want. And just beautiful scenic place. After we finished that, it was about 3-4 o'clock. We came back to the hotel, freshened up, and in the evening on our way into Portland downtown for dinner, we stopped to see this bridge, which is St. John's Bridge. It's a steel suspension bridge, which was built between 1929 and 1931. And it's in a Gothic style. So it's a very pretty bridge. When it's lit up in the dark, it looks really phenomenal. And the striking feature about it is if you go below to a park near the feet of the bridge, which is called Cathedral Park, you can see underneath the supports of the bridge, and they are built so nicely that they almost form like a cathedral, which is why they've named the park Cathedral. So it's just the symmetry and the construction is so perfect that it looks like a cathedral. Very unlike some of the flyovers and stuff we see now, which are so ugly underneath. This is really beautiful. You can see me and Mikla standing there at the base. So that was our first day in Portland. And then now Dinkar will take you through the second day.
Yeah, so for day 2, we decided to take a long drive, basically go around the coastline of Oregon. So we started off in the morning. We went to a place called Astoria, which is one of the oldest cities in Oregon. And then from there, we went to Peter Iredale Shipwreck, which is known for one of the ships which ran ashore a long time back. Okay. We'll go to the pictures and I'll explain what we did on day 2. So, yeah, this is the first place where I said Astoria, one of the oldest cities in Oregon. And this place, there is a big truss bridge there which connects between the Columbia River, which flows into the Pacific Ocean, and you can see that bridge uh, from the top of this column. Okay, so this, if you look at this column, you can climb up the column onto the top, and on the top, if you see, there is a viewing area, and you get to see an entire 360-degree view of the bridge and the surroundings of Oregon. So this bridge is very popular. I mean, it's supposed to be one of the oldest truss bridges built, and it is one of the longest truss bridges. And it connects between Oregon and Washington. So after viewing this area, then we drove down to a place which is called Peter Iredale Shipwreck. So this is on the way on the coast. Apparently, this ship was traveling from Mexico to Portland and then to UK, and it ran ashore on it in this area. You can see that there are pieces of the shipwreck on the beach there. It's a small, I mean, nice area. You can just go spend some time. The kids can play around there, go under the shipwreck pieces which are left over. You can move to the next one. And then from there, we drove along the coast and we came to this place which is known called Cannon Beach. Okay, and Cannon Beach is known for these large sea stacks. You can see the sea stack here. There is one sea stack here, and it is supposed to be the largest sea stack on that coast. And the thing about this is it's very popular, and there are a lot of movies which are filmed on this area. And the other thing about this area is, there are nice restaurants along the beach here, and you can go and sit in the restaurant, have lunch, and watch the people on the beach, or have a nice view of the area. So we went to a nice place here on the beach. We had lunch there. Spent about some time. One thing we found, there are a lot of these restaurants are very popular, so you might have to wait a while to get tables in these restaurants. And then from there, we drove along the coast, and the coast is very scenic. It's very similar to how our US 101 or Highway 1 is here. But it's more greener, and it has nice picturesque views of the ocean. And it is supposed to be, it has a name called Samuel Boardman Highway. And it's named after this person who was the Oregon Sparks superintendent. Next picture. So you can see that we have some pictures of the coastline as you drive along. It's very, very picturesque and nice. You can stop at various points, take a look at all these scenes, and then keep driving. And the next spot was this very world famous cheese factory or creamery, which is called Tillamook. And this place you can spend almost half a day here, but we did not have that much time. Actually, you can take a tour of the entire factory and the creamery and how cheese is made. It's a very popular point. When we went there, there was so much crowd there. We had a hard time finding parking itself. So they had created additional parking lots. We parked there, walked all the way, went into the creamery, and we did not take a tour because we did not have the time. But they had a small tour of just walking around this place where you can view how the cheese is made. Okay, from on the second floor of the place. And they also have a marketplace here where you can go buy cheese and and look at all the different kind of cheeses they make.
They have tasting rooms also where you can sample some of their most popular cheeses.
Yeah.
And you can get a picnic basket and actually picnic in their grounds. So they have a lot of spots for children to play, and some spots where kids can basically let off steam.
And also there are some spots to take pictures. They also have a restaurant there, right? Where you can have some of their favorite cheeses, etc. We did not go to the restaurant. We just walked around the place, took some pictures along inside the factory as well as outside. This is a picture of Uma and Nikla just smiling at some cheesy joke anyway. When we drove along the coast, on the way you see a lot of these rock formations, in the ocean. This is called the Devil's Punch Bowl. It's basically in this spot, the water comes into this punch bowl, and it is swirling around, and you can see foam coming up, etc. So it's very pretty sight. So you see similar spots along this one. I mean, I'll show you some other spots where he went and stopped and he went into the area. It's called the Spouting Horn, right? Yeah. Before going to Spouting Horn, on the way we also stopped at this lighthouse. It's one of the old lighthouses which was built in 1873, and it's supposed to be the tallest lighthouse in Oregon. I mean, it's not working right now, but you can go take a walk around it. And one of the key points here is if you go there, sometimes you might see whales, and we did see some whales who were spouting in the ocean from this point. This is the
views from the lighthouse.
This is the view from the lighthouse.
And this is Thor's Well.
This is Thor's Well. So this is a unique place. Okay, I mean, this is what you see is, there is a small rock formation in the ocean there, and the water or the ocean water comes into this spot, and then it kind of goes down like as though it's going into a well, and again fills up again. Okay, I have some videos of that. You will get to see that. It's pretty nice.
Yeah, they call it the drain pipe of the Pacific. It's just a hole in the rock or the ocean bed, which is about 20 feet deep. But it's better seen in the video.
Yeah. The key thing is, you have to go to this point when there is high tide. Okay. If you don't, then you may not be able to see the well, the water flowing in and out. But you can take the video.
So this is a video of the Spouting Horn. And
right next to Thor's Well, right?
Yeah. This is right next to Thor's Well. You park at the same point and you can see this. Just focus on this area here and you will see what I'm talking about. Just watch this for a few seconds. Did you see that? So it's like a water, almost like a whale blowing through its blowhole. There is a hole in the rock and the waves come in and then the water is spouted through that. So this is the Spouting Horn. And now this is Thor's Well.
That's really amazing, Uma, Dinkar. Really amazing.
Very fantastic.
Yes, this one is we are talking about this Thor's Well.
You can actually go and stand on the rocks pretty close to it.
Yeah.
I was kind of scared to go too close, but there were other people who were just like almost standing on those rocks you see there.
Those rocks there, right? You can see people, you can go to that point and almost watch the water flow in and out into the well. But again, the key thing is it has to be done when it's high tide. So by the time for us, when we reached there, it was an evening high tide and we went and watched it and then came back.
And if you drive further south from here, there's more points along the coast, but we were not able to do it in one day. And you will actually then get to the tip of California if you keep driving south. This itself was almost 430 miles of driving, and it was very strenuous driving for Dinkar. So I would suggest that if you actually want to do this, it might be a good idea to stop somewhere either here in Cannon Beach or Lincoln City, or Newport is another area where there are a lot of hotels and restaurant or resorts, and you can stop there and do this in a couple of days. Would be a more relaxed trip.
So that was day 2, right? And
Yeah.
We finished this whole coast drive in a day and reached back to Portland. Day 3.
So day 3, we were supposed to fly back to California in the evening. So we just went to Portland downtown to check out the sites there. There is a famous bookstore in Portland downtown called Powell's City of Books. This is almost 68,000 square feet area of the bookstore on several levels. And they have almost 3,500 sections of both new, used, and some very rare books. So this is very popular among book lovers. And you can actually spend quite a lot of time there browsing through their different sections. We, of course, just spent about half an hour there. And then we went for lunch. There are some good restaurants in downtown Portland. And then, of course, you may have heard that Portland is very famous for its donuts. The most famous store there or chain there is Voodoo Donuts. And and there's another one called Blue Star. And when we checked around, we were told actually that Blue Star is probably better taste-wise than Voodoo. So we stopped at one Blue Star outlet and had some donuts. They have some very exotic flavors like blueberry, bourbon, basil, orange and rosemary, and Cointreau creme brulee, and some very exotic flavors and really good donuts. So if you're ever in Portland, make sure you try. Although I did hear that Blue Star just filed for bankruptcy. So hopefully they get rescued and continue in business. Also, if you are inclined towards shopping, Oregon is a good place to shop because there's no sales tax. Mikla is the shopper in our family. So we spent some time in some of the stores there and she picked up some stuff. And we also caught up with some friends who had moved from here, California to Portland. So that was basically our Portland trip in 3 days. So it had coastal scenic sites. It had mountains, snow, lakes, waterfalls, as well as some features for kids like the creamery and the sites in Portland downtown. So that was Portland for you. And next we will take you to New Mexico, where we spent almost 5 days. So I actually saw a picture of the Tent Rocks National Monument that a friend had posted on Facebook. And that got me looking into New Mexico as a travel destination. And while I was researching that, I found that in October, they have something called the International Balloon Festival, a hot air balloon festival. And when I looked at that, it looked really interesting. So we decided to coincide our trip to New Mexico with the balloon festival, which is held usually in the first week of October. So we took a couple of days off and then went there for 5 days. First day, we did a drive to Santa Fe, which is like a twin city of Albuquerque. We flew into Albuquerque, stayed there, and then drove from there to Santa Fe, which is about a couple of hours drive. Santa Fe is the capital of New Mexico. It's one of the old cities, which was founded in 1610 as the capital of Nuevo Mexico at that time. So it's the oldest state capital in the US. And it's a very artsy city. So they have a lot of artsy architecture. They have a lot of art museums, art installations, and street art that you can see there. So we went to the center of Santa Fe, and they have the Cathedral Basilica. Let me show you the pictures. This is the Cathedral Basilica of Francis d'Assisi. So it's an old church. You can go inside the church. They have beautiful stained glass work inside the church. So that is worth seeing. There's also another chapel, I think, called Loreto's Chapel there. And the remarkable feature about this is this winding staircase that they have there. And it is claimed that there are no nails or dowels or any kind of supports holding up this staircase. and it has lasted so many years. They don't allow anybody to go on it right now, and I'm not sure, having heard that it doesn't have any support, that I would necessarily have the courage to step on it, but it's beautiful and worth seeing. They also have a lot of Adobe style architecture. This is the Palace of the Governors, and they have, as you can see, a lot of street art here, a lot of sculptures. And on Sundays, they have kind of a street art or folk art exhibition and sale on the curb outside of that Palace of the Governors. And they have lots of artwork there. These skeleton-like, decorated skeleton-like figures that they had in one of them. Since it was October when we went, it was close to Halloween, so of course pumpkins everywhere. And New Mexico has chilies that are famous, the Hatch chilies. They're available in red and green, and they make all kinds of sauces with these chilies, and you should definitely try some New Mexican cuisine when you're there as well. This is another road called Canyon Road, where they have a lot of these artsy installations. These are some glass poppies. They have all these metal sculptures that you can see all along the street, and a lot of art galleries and studios. Santa Fe to Albuquerque was also known as the Turquoise Trail because of the turquoise deposits that they could find in the mountains around there. So you find a lot of stores selling all these accessories and artifacts made of turquoise jewelry. And then again, more sculptures along the way. We went to a New Mexican restaurant there called La Plazuela in Santa Fe Plaza and tried some of their New Mexican delicacies made with those Hatch chilies. And since it's kind of spicy, it kind of appealed to our tastes as well. This is another Adobe style, very pretty. It just looked like a painting to me, so I took a picture of it. Another Adobe style church. And everywhere they will have these bunches of red chilies hanging, dried red chilies hanging, so that you can buy them either to decorate, or if you are interested in cooking, they have those cooking style chilies also available there. So that was our first day in Albuquerque. And then now Dinkar will take you to the second day.
Second day, we did a small road trip to this place called Petroglyph National Monument, the Sanctuary, Chimayo, and the tramway to Sandy Appeal. These are 3 spots we did that day. So the Petroglyph National Park, it's called a National Monument, is known for a lot of these settlements of the Pueblo Indians, I guess, or the Spanish settlers. And they had created images in those days of animals, peoples, various stars, and any other pictures they have there. So it's basically on the rocks you will see these images. You can see here right now, there are some images of human people, and then different kinds of images of stars, etc. Okay, so you can walk around this place. It's about maybe a 2-hour walk inside the monument. It's very it's full of desert there, and these rocks, apparently these they were carved by these settlers there, and because of the various minerals in the rocks like iron and magnesium, etc., it formed a varnish on top of it, and that's why they are preserved there and it's still there as is. So that's the Petroglyph National Monument. And then, there is some fauna and flowers also there, and these are all these desert plants there which grow in that area. And from there, we went to Chimayo. Chimayo is known for its sanctuary, And also there is a very famous restaurant there. So we went to the, did we have lunch first?
Yeah, man.
So after the petroglyphs, we drove to this place called Rancho de Chamayo restaurant. It's a very popular restaurant. So you don't take reservations. So basically we went there and found that we had to wait for almost an hour to get a table there. And we spent, yeah, they have a nice bar. So we sat there, had some drinks until our table was made available to us. And then we had lunch at this place. And then we went, yeah, from there we went to this place called Sanctuary of Chimayo. This is a very holy place as per the
The Hispanic Christians.
Hispanic Christians.
They get almost 300,000 visitors a year, and they consider a very holy place for in their culture. So it's a very old adobe style church, very quaint looking. And on the grounds, they have all these different arches like things with crosses and. Sorry. So that was Sanctuary.
Sanctuary. Then we drove back. On the way back, we stopped at
Somewhere between Santa Fe and Albuquerque, they have this tramway.
it's supposed to be the longest tramway. It's about 2.7 miles. And there's an observation deck at top of the. There are two stops. You can stop in midway and then again go higher.
This was built in 1966 and it was considered an architectural feat. It was built with some Swiss or German collaboration. And each of these cars carries almost 50 people. And there are two in the air at the same time. And this, it flies over the Domingo Beca Canyon, which was very famous because in 1955, there was an air crash of a TWA plane. And the wreckage was so deep into the canyon that at that point, it was very difficult to retrieve it. So they say when you're going on this, this cable car, you can actually, if you look down carefully, you can actually see the wreckage of that air crash.
Yeah, and then so on top of that, there is as I said, there is a observation deck. We can go up there, and we went late in the evening. It was very windy, and you could see a nice sunset from the top, which was very pretty. So
it was so windy that we were really worried because the next day we had planned to go for the balloon festival, and we said if there's winds like this, chances are there's not going to be any balloons taking off. So we were kind of worried about that. But we'll show you then our.
This was basically the end of the day. Right? We finished this,
yeah,
came back, and then went out for dinner. And then the next day was.
So next day was actually planned for the balloon festival because we had given ourselves 2 or 3 days while the balloon festival was on during our trip. So that in case the balloons don't take off one day, we can always go another day. So day 3, we plan to go for the balloon festival. The balloon festival actually goes on for 2 weeks in Albuquerque. So we set out to go for the balloon festival, and the event starts very early in the morning, and the first balloons take off at around 5:36 in the morning, and it's called the Dawn Patrol. So we had planned to go there, so we got up really early in the morning, set out at 4 o'clock, and then we got just stuck on the freeway. Stuck meaning the car was not moving at all, and it very soon became clear to us that we were not going to make it there for the Dawn Patrol in time. So we made a sudden change in plan and decided to do whatever we had planned for the next day on that day. And we ended up going to the Kasha Katue Tent Rocks National Monument. So let me take you to the pictures of that. So the Tent Rocks Monument is a very, very beautiful place. There's not very many places in the world where you have these kind of tent rocks. which are formed due to layers of volcanic rock and ash being deposited from volcanic eruptions. And they look like tents, and some of them have a solid capstone on the top of them as well. So one other place where these tent rocks are there in the world is Cappadocia, which I think somebody else covered in their travel diaries, Cappadocia in Turkey, where also they have tent rocks and they have hot air balloons as well. So we don't really have to go that far to see those two things. We could just go to New Mexico to see them as well. So here is the tent rock where you see the capstone on the top. They have some hikes there in the Tent Rocks Monument. There's a small flat one, which is fairly short, I think half a mile. And then they have a longer one, which is called the Slot Canyon Trail, which we did, which goes up quite high and is also, so it starts off like this. It's a really narrow slot canyon through the rocks. And if you see the rocks on the side, you can see the different layers of deposits in different colors, the striations on the rock, which is really beautiful. And at points, the slot canyon gets really, really narrow, and sometimes you have to clamber over rocks or crawl under rocks. As you can see here, you have to crawl under this to go further on the trail. And then as you keep going higher, you see the tent rocks from above. So another very narrow spot in the Slot Canyon. And then you get these views of the tent rocks from the top. So it looks really beautiful. And it's a different color from the normal rocks. It's a lighter ash colored geology around here. So we actually reached the park at opening time, which was 7 o'clock, and we did the hike early in the morning. So by the time we finished it, it was about 10:30. And since we had started at 4 o'clock in the morning for the balloon festival, we hadn't had any breakfast and we were really hungry. So we went to this place in Santa Fe called The Pantry, which was highly recommended by Yelpers for brunch. And there again, being popular, we had to wait almost half an hour to 45 minutes to get a table. And then we tried some New Mexican brunch items covered with green hat chili sauce and red hat chili sauce. It was really good. And then from there on, we made our way to Bandelier National Monument. Now, this is another national monument. For some reason, all these places in New Mexico are called monuments and not national parks. This place is in a city called Los Alamitos. It preserves the homes and the territory of the ancestral Pueblo Indians who lived there somewhere between 1150 and 1600 AD. So there is this 50 square miles of area which has been preserved and is called the Bandelier National Monument. It's named after Adolfo Bandelier, a Swiss-American anthropologist who did a lot to study the cultures of these Indians, and also he lobbied for the preservation of the area. So here you have all these, if you can see this in this picture, there are all these holes in the rock. Those are actually the dwellings of the Indians. So they used to live at a slightly higher level in these caves, mainly to avoid snakes, reptiles, and other invading tribes. And at some points in the park, they have put these ladders so you can actually climb up and crawl into their dwellings and actually get a feel for how they used to live. So this is something that children would really enjoy, clambering up and down the ladders. You can see the remnants of their old civilization down below in the valley. And then here you can see Mekla has climbed and crawled into the cave, and she's happily seated in one of their dwellings. This is a big cave that was also used by those Indians, and you can see these really long ladders to go up there. And they have the remnants of their campfires, their cooking implements, and how they used to live. So I didn't climb up that ladder, but Mekhla and Dinkar went up there and took a look at that. So in this next picture, you actually see them climbing up the ladder to go up to that cave. So it was pretty interesting to see this this national monument as well.
Sorry, Uma. So I guess these were actually homes of those tribes.
Yeah, they used to live there.
Oh, okay, nice, fun.
Yeah, because the desert has snakes, etc., right? All kinds of creatures.
Scorpions, snakes, and reptiles. So they used to live up in those little holes in the rock.
Okay, never mind. Not so much fun.
So then on day 4, we actually went for the International Balloon Festival. And this time we made sure we didn't drive. We actually took a shuttle bus they have shuttle buses from various points in Albuquerque where you can, they usually start from a strip mall. So you can go park in their parking lot and then take the shuttle bus and go to the actual grounds where the balloon festival is held. So again, we started really early in the morning, got up at 3 and went to that strip mall where the shuttle bus was to start, parked, got onto the bus, and it took us there by almost 3:30 or 4. So it was pretty cold in the morning, but we were lucky that we were able to find a picnic table and bench where we could sit and basically wait for the event to start. So the first event in the balloon festival is something called the Dawn Patrol. Yeah, sure. Dinkar will give you a brief history of the balloon festival.
Yeah, just a short story about behind it. Apparently, this started in the 1970s. There was a 50th anniversary of one of the radio stations, and there was one person there who had a hot air balloon. So they said for that 50th anniversary celebration, they will have him go up the balloon. He did that, and then the question came up, can we do this every year? And they started inviting other people or enthusiasts who were hot air balloon enthusiasts and asked them to come. And that's how it started. And apparently it was first done in the February time frame, but then later on they realized that October was the best time because the winds and the temperature in October is far suited for hot air ballooning. That's how it started. And slowly it started with about 20 balloons, and then now apparently there are about 500, 600 balloons which go up in during that period. And it's a pretty huge event. You will see almost about 704,000 people attend that event during that period, or that festival. So that's how the hot air balloon festival started in Albuquerque.
So it's a very happening event in Albuquerque with all these people descending on the town at that time. So the first event is the Dawn Patrol. It's at around 5:36 in the morning. They just send up about 8 to 10 balloons to check the wind conditions and other weather conditions before the other balloons actually rise. So it's still very dark, and once they fire up the balloons, they look really nice and colorful. And slowly they take off one by one, like little like our Diwali lanterns in the sky. So they look really pretty. And then once they have ascertained that the weather conditions are fine, then they have an event called the Mass Ascension at about 7 o'clock in the morning. That is when almost about 600 balloons take off one by one. So this is one of the balloons being fired up. And the best part about this festival is that you can actually walk on the ground right between the balloons and see the people as they fire up, how they do it, and how they all get into the basket and how the balloon takes off. So it's very interesting for kids, and it's one of the most photographed events in the world. And from the later pictures, you'll be able to see why. So this is one of the first balloons that took off with the Albuquerque Balloon Festival printed on it. with the flag, etc., with the national anthem playing. And then now you can see there are just balloons all around us, and you can just walk in between them. And they have different shapes and cartoon characters. They have mascots of sports teams, of radio stations. So all different types of balloons you will be able to see. So it's very interesting to go there at least once, especially if you have small kids. I mean, we had no really small kids with us at that time, but we still really enjoyed it. This is the mascot of one of the airlines. This was a cow-shaped balloon mascot of one of the local creameries in Albuquerque. You can see all the number of balloons that were all taking up in between these two big ones that are being readied up for launching. So this we saw one being actually fired up, and how they fill the air in the balloon. And
yeah, that park is really huge. Okay, it's acres and acres of. So you start at one point and start walking. I mean, all along you'll find all these people standing in line, in horizontally, and trying to get their balloons ready to take off. So slowly there is a marshal or some police sheriff guy who comes and tells each row, now get ready, and then they start firing up the balloons. And then once they're all ready, they'll ask them to take off. So they go in order. It's pretty well organized and managed by those people who run the show.
These were a couple of B-shaped balloons. A frog, a Mexican couple. So you can see they are a fish, little baby with a pacifier. Birds, Tweety.
Going to some.
Alyssa?
It's going to some.
Why? Gammat yato tu kuas galari.
Why it'll going to?
Wow!
Is that some character you recognize? And if you actually want to go up in a balloon, I believe you can also book a balloon ride. We didn't do
Wow.
it. You can actually do that as well if you.
How big is the bumblebee?
And then that
How
got
big
done by around 10 o'clock, and we took the shuttle bus back. And then since 2 days in a row, we had got up really early. We decided to rest in the room in the afternoon. And then in the evening, we went to Albuquerque, Old Town, where again, they have all these chilies for decoration. And during the balloon festival, because of the number of tourists that come in, it's a very happening place. They have music and dance in the park, in the plaza. And they have like a lot of promotions going on. They have a lot of art on display. So we went there and we had dinner at one of the Albuquerque restaurants. And then now we have a little bit of some tips for you if you want to go for the balloon festival. So firstly, allow yourself at least 2 or 3 days during the time the festival is on, just in case one day it doesn't happen for weather conditions, you can always catch it another day. Plan on going early for the dawn patrol because it's really nice to see that. Dress in layers because when it's dark, it's cold. And then once the sun comes up, it starts to get warm. So then you can shed some layers and make yourself more comfortable. Make sure you carry some drinks and some snacks because as you can see, it's really crowded. So if you get a place to sit and you give up that place to go look for drinks and snacks, there's no guarantee that you will find a place again. and carry a mat also just in case you don't get a bench. Buy your tickets in advance, and most important, don't plan on driving there to the grounds. Take a shuttle bus from a lot of places where they have it. And most of the hotels have information on that, since this is like the really big event for Albuquerque. And make sure you have enough memory in your phone for pictures. It's after all one of the most photographed events in the world. And then if you want, pre-book a balloon ride if you want to go up in the balloon.
My favorite balloon my the hedgehog that one to एक apple शिकलेले.
Why? Mast shapes study. It's good fun.
Where?
I think unfortunately this year they had to cancel it, of course, because of COVID, but they've scheduled it for 2021, and let's hope that it happens. So that is basically it for our travel diaries this week. Any questions? We are happy to answer.
Uma loved it. Loved the presentation.
Thank you.
It's very nice. That's one trip we haven't done, and that's on our list. So I guess we'll have to go in 2021.
Yeah.
Very nice. Thank you. And also Kushi and Kunal. My God, I love how involved they are with the presentation.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Uma.
Thank you. It was a great presentation. It really
Wow,
was
Dinkar, very nice presentation.
Thank you.
Beautiful presentation, Uma and
I want to plan
Dinkar.
a trip next October.
Balloon festival.
Magale balloon festival.
Hey, Uma, do you know those formations for a rock art chair? Do you know how they got that shape?
Which
Was
ones
it
are the Portland ones or
what was that called again? I don't
Bandicare
remember.
National Monument?
The
The one
tent,
that
the tent,
The tent rocks?
yeah, tent rock.
10 rocks, correct.
Yeah, that's because of volcanic eruptions. The ash and the rock has been deposited like that, and then erosion for some reason gives it that formation, like the tent.
Okay. Amazing.
Are
Because
they-
all of them are
It's a very
symmetrical.
natural, it's a
right?
natural thing. It's not, it's a natural, that rock formation.
Are they
Why?
hollow inside? Are they hollow inside?
No.
No,
They're not hollow.
Oh, okay.
It's like a cap sitting on top of a rock.
Right.
Okay. Because
That's beautiful. Yeah.
if you look at the formations in Bryce Canyon, their theory is that it was submerged underwater. So it was formed because it was
the
underwater.
hoodoos. Yeah.
Wait, the hoodoos, why? But and this looks similar, and it's beautiful, just so unique, ne?
Yeah, that's what, when I first saw the picture of, that's what made me want to plan a trip to New Mexico. I saw the picture of that in somebody's Facebook post.
Why?
Rocks, yeah. And then
Yes.
we were able to combine it with Balloon Festival as well. So
Maybe next year all Kaukans can go to the balloon festival together. So beautiful. Thank you for sharing.
thank you.
Tu ga
Thank you.
balloon kala shila?
Magal balloon, ah?
Well,
Magal balloon sila.
Cute.
Yeah, the key thing for the balloon festival is not to drive. Okay, take a
Oh, not, oh, not to drive. Okay.
not
That's a
to
good
drive
tip.
because you will not find. First of all,
You
getting
just
to
get
the,
stuck on the freeway.
you get stuck on the freeway. Parking
Okay.
is a problem. The shuttle bus is the best. I mean,
Oh,
they have
Okay.
a special road for them, so they don't get blocked. Okay, they have special road created for the shuttle buses to go to the balloon festival.
Oh,
okay.
okay.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Pleasure.
Very
Thank you.
interesting. Very interesting, Uma.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
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 And all of you.
Bye. Thank you. Bye.
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 One other question, right? Nobody has any other questions?
Any other questions, or we
Any other
can?
questions? If there are any questions, you can reach out to us directly also.
Yeah.
We can give you pointers.
Thank you, Dinkar. Thank you, Ma.
Okay. Thanks, Preeti and Kedar
Yeah.
for the
Thank you.
Organizing it.
Thank you. Bye bye.